What's going on, guys? Adam Milstead here with Straight Yak coming to you from the studio right here in my home. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be talking about my experience at the Bassmaster Kayak Series Championship, which is technically our classic for Kayak Series for Bassmaster. And this was in Yantis, Texas, fishing the infamous Lake Fork. So today, what I want to do is I kind of want to do just a in the studio recap of what I dealt with out on the water, where I fished, and I'm going to give you straight up where I fished as well as what I was using, all my secrets. Because if you're a angler that I fished against, and you'll have an opportunity to kind of compare, what you're doing versus what I was doing, what I thought was working. Maybe if you wanted to share something in the comments down below, whatever. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, but I'm also going to talk about what conditions I dealt with out there, as well as actually my first experience going to the Bassmaster Classic Expo, which is held at Fort Worth, technically Fort Worth Convention Center. So we're got a lot to talk about here. We're going to jump into an intro, and then we're going to dive into my recap of the Bassmaster Classic Championship Kayak Series here on Straight Yacked.
My name is Adam Milstead, and I'm a former UFC fighter turned extreme kayak angler. I travel around the country fishing bass tournaments out of kayaks. So if you like kayaking and you like fishing, then welcome to Straight Yak.
Yes! Hey!
All right, guys, welcome back. So, like I said before, we're going to talk about my experience out on Lake Fork. This is from March 14th all the way to about March 20th, 21st. And these were the conditions I was dealing with, the things that I was using to catch fish with, all the above. We're going to talk about it all here. Okay, so first things first, though, guys, if you do find this video entertaining, educational, whatever, please hit that like and subscribe button down below. It gives me a lot of motivation to continue making these videos because I'm very tired. I just got back. So, anyways, let's support each other out there. Okay, guys. So, first things first, I want to talk about real quick the experience I had on actually being able to make the classic this year. So, for those of you who don't know, there's a couple different ways that you can make the actual Bassmaster Classic Kayak Series, and that is either A, through the national 6 to 8 tournaments that they have on every single year. And generally, the top three of those events go to the Classic to fish. On top of that, you can also qualify by going to your state's um, Bass Nation series, which is an affiliate of Bassmaster, and you could actually qualify there. And for us here in Pennsylvania, um, you generally have about 6 to 8 events. And if you take a top three out of those events, you can go and fish the championship, the state championship. And then if you take generally a top three out of them, you go on and fish the classic. And so that's generally how I made it. But just to kind of recap that situation, because it was a little bit odd, this is sort of how it went down. Okay. So, um, the championship for our state, for PA Bass Nation, is held a lot of the times and majority of the times on the Susquehanna, because it is just an immaculate, beautiful scenario. When you're fishing either late September, early October, you're fishing for giant shallow water smallmouth. I mean, that's the sort of mecca of smallmouth fishing, and we have it 4 hours, at least from me, 4 hours away, right here in the center of the Pennsylvania state. And so the thing about it is, I generally, whenever I go out there to fish these things, I'm fishing against probably 50% of the field is a lot of local guys who literally live 30, 45 minutes away from the river. They have a lot of access and a lot of time to be able to go out there and being able to find these little honey holes, these areas where these bass are. And the river is never the same. Just like any other body of water you go to, it's never the same. It's always something different every single day you get there. So for me, I had to really put some time and effort in because I wanted to make it classic this year. And so again, the top three go generally the top three go every single year. The last 2 years in a row, I've come in fourth or fifth place or tied with fourth and fifth place, and I've missed it by 1 place and 1 inch both years in a row. And I said, this year, I got to make that true attempt. And so I went out there, took time off of work, went out there and found a couple decent areas. Even went the weekend before, really tried everything I could to really put some time in on that water. Because again,
Look at
going up
that
these
guy.
local guys, these guys don't really have to put that much time in because they're fishing it for their chapter series on some of the local tournaments, or B, it's just there and they're just so used to it. They know pretty much any condition that the river's in, where those fish are going to be. For me, don't necessarily have that in my wheelhouse all the time. I do have some luck on the Susquehanna, but it still can be finicky at times. So, anyways, long story short, I put the time in, busted my butt, and it turned away with third place, which I was super excited. But unfortunately, the probably about 3 weeks prior to the championship, I had gotten my trophy, and I asked, like, "Hey, are we sending 3 or maybe even 4 people this year to the classic?" And the attorney director, Josh Sims, which is a great guy, good friend of mine, said no. Unfortunately, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was some talk, and it came to fruition that it is going to be based on a percentage of the members that you have of Bass Nation in that state, as well as the attendance um, per tournament. And so our numbers have been kind of low lately. It's been about 15 to 20 on average per tournament. We're averaging about 40, maybe 35, 40 guys. So it's been pretty tough to kind of build this program up, but we're working on it. And Josh is doing a great job. This is his first year taking over, and I can't wait to see what happens in the future. But regardless, I was told that only 2 are going because of those numbers being so low. And of course, this year again, well, 2024, I missed it by 1 place. And so I was just really pissed off. May have acted out of character when that happened. This was last October. I sped out of the parking lot. I probably shouldn't have done that, but I was just pissed off. I put a lot of work into it and came up short again. Well, long story short, December 31st, Josh gave me a call. One of the guys can't make it, so that roll down effect goes to me. And so obviously super excited, was like, man, I don't know why this came to fruition, why it's happening, but I'm ready to go. Let's go ahead and fish. Let's fish the classic, man. Sign me up. But it's like, and that was December 31st, which is the last day that you're supposed to have your anglers in for your state. Okay. So again, these are the ways that you can make the classic. So if you guys are interested in trying to get out there, but you don't have the means of traveling across the country to get some of these longer national tournaments, you could do this right in your state. And if you don't have one, you could call Steve Owens up and ask him what it takes to create one in your state. Okay. So lo and behold, let's fast forward probably 3 months. I got an Airbnb and I've got my vacation set up with work, and I'm ready to put in as much time as humanly possible on Lake Fork. Number one, it's a bucket list lake for me. This lake, by far, has every potential of putting you on a double digit pound bass. Okay, 10 plus pounds. I believe a couple of the guys in pre-fishing were able to catch some 10 pounders. Me myself got a whole 2 of my personal bests in the same day. But I mean, it is just the lake itself is so infamous, and everybody talks about it, and everybody talks about what happened back in 2024 early season in February, where Trey McKinney from the Bass Elite Series walked away with being the youngest champion ever. At the same time, the weight limits were something we've never seen before. I mean, we're talking like on average 6 to 7 pounds that these people were bringing in, or were at least weighing in. Uh, and then, obviously calling up little by little there. But I mean, it's just insane. If you get a chance, go check out on YouTube. They got the whole tournament. Of course, if a lot of the other guys who fished in this tournament with me has probably watched that quite a bit as well, because again, that was something to really look on. You're able to see where these guys are fishing. You're able to see what they're using. And yeah, and so that obviously helps kind of piece together the puzzle that Lake Fork is in and around February or March. So, anyways, 17-hour drive. Get out there, super tired when I get there. I drove through the night, and when I drove through the night, this was, I had woken up at 6 a.m. to go to work on Thursday, took a half a day, and then drove all the way 17 hours, and I didn't get there till about, I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and my Airbnb wasn't ready, so I immediately started fishing. And there's a couple different things that I want to talk about as far as first impressions of the lake. Number one, the lake and the community that surrounds the lake is every bit of just all about bass fishing. Okay. I mean, if you go, somewhere around here in Pennsylvania, you go to game lands, things like that. There's going to be a lot of people going to be talking about hunting. They're going to be talking about deer hunting, things like that. If you, I don't know, go down south to Florida. I mean, especially if you're on the coast, that whole community is evolved in ocean fishing and things like that. But here, this you had Emory, you had Sulphur Springs, you have obviously Yanis, Texas. All these small little towns that surround this place are nothing but bass fishermen, and there are bass boats everywhere. And if you didn't have a bass boat on that lake, or if you have a house on that lake, you don't have a bass boat, you're a weirdo. I mean, it just looked like every house I saw had a Triton, Phoenix, had just a giant bass boat ready to head out on the water. So it was really cool to see this community is all built up around bass fishing. And so when I got out on the water, the first thing that I ran into, which is ultimately going to be the biggest puzzle to everybody's piece for kayak fishing on Lake Fork throughout the whole week, is wind. And if you're reading up on the reports prior to getting there, you can literally see, like, everybody is talking about how atrocious this wind is. We're talking sustained winds of, 20 miles per hour with gusts up to 30, 40 miles per hour, which make it miserable for a kayak, let alone a boat. So it was immediately going to be a factor that's going to play throughout the whole week. And the first time I got out on the water, I started just kind of like, doing what you normally do when you get to a body of water you've never been to. You start pounding the bank. And that's what I focused on pretty much throughout the whole week. All I did was pound the bank. And, I had a couple areas picked out on the map that I was going to focus on getting to for each day. You had, I believe, 4 or 5 days to pre fish. And so I took every single one of those days to try to find my spot. And so the first situation I ran into was dealing with boat traffic. On top of the wind, you also had boat traffic. And if you were in anywhere that was sort of safe from the wind, you were dealing with a lot of boat traffic. And not only is there boat traffic out there, there's obviously other kayakers, there's other recreational fishermen, bank fishermen, crappie fishermen. So it's very, very busy. And so you kind of get a little drawn back trying to figure out, man, am I ever going to be able to find a decent spot or pattern or something where I can utilize maybe a power fishing technique instead of like a finesse technique, because I just feel like these fish are just pressured so much. Well, the funny thing is, yes, these fish are pressured, but Lake Fork is one of those bass fisheries where it just seems like the fish reset so quick. And obviously it depends on what time of the year that you're in. So if you're dealing with a little bit colder water, maybe starting to get up to the mid to high 50s, we're talking like 57, 58 degrees. That's about the time those fish are really starting to make their move from the deep end of the lake into those what I call staging areas for spawning. And so that's exactly what was happening. And I ran into a couple of different situations where I found smaller feeding bass that was able to pick up on small jerk baits. But I mean, these were small fish. And my first couple of fish I caught, I think the biggest being about 15 inches, and the rest are like 13 or 14. You could see them kind of teeing off on the shad and things like that out there. And I just knew that obviously wasn't going to be the case. And so I really worked hard, and it was about halfway through this first day that my GoPro decides to just randomly fall in the water. I can't tell you how many times I've had it out there locked down on that yak attack pole, and it just fell in the water. And so obviously that GoPro is done. And so, um, yeah, that kind of ticked me off. But there's something that happens every time the GoPro goes off, and one of the things is I catch big fish. And that's, of course, exactly what happened. So, getting later in the day, I start throwing just a simple Evo tungsten chatterbait, green pumpkin on a green pumpkin chatter shad. As simple as it gets, green on green. That is it. And I start pounding the bank with this thing. And as I'm making my way back, fishing into the wind, which is very key in this, fishing into the wind, I was able to first big female was 19 and a half, and was definitely, an eye opener because I caught that fish in about 2.5 feet of water, right on literally a point. Couldn't have been any more of a point. I mean, it literally was just straight out from the bank, and that fish pulled up right on that point and was sitting there. Had to have a little bit of grass on it. And so caught that fish, and I was like, hey, might have an opportunity here. Let's see what else we can do. I continue fishing. I turn around, I come back, and I fish that same point again into the wind. And this time I catch a 21 out of there, which is one of the bigger bass I've ever caught in my life. I fish in Western Pennsylvania area. Okay. So we don't get a lot of giant fish. Okay. Don't hold me accountable that I haven't fished Lake Fork much, but 21. And I was like, wow, what a tank. I was like, these are the fish that I need, obviously.
All right,
So
I think I'm gonna end on this fish. Look at that tank. Look at that. Look, she got some tattoos. 21, 21 incher. Let's go, baby. Ooh, I am burnt, but we got
So
him.
got a little bit of insight, and then continued kind of taking that to my next few days. Again, getting out on the water, dealing with the wind was the factor. The wind was just terrible, but you had to play the wind. And what I mean by playing the wind is when you get out there, if you fished with the wind, those bass sort of set up kind of like how trout was set up in a stream. Their head is facing towards that water that's pushing out or into the creek, whatever it is, wherever that wind is coming from. Those fish set up like that. And when you kind of like buzz past them with something real quick with a jackhammer or an Evo or something like that, it's not a natural thing for them, especially since they're getting hit quite a lot. There's a lot of pressure on those bass. Those bass are literally seeing everything being thrown at them: jigs, sankos, swim baits, swim jigs, vibrating jigs, spinner baits. They're seeing it all out there. And so you've got to be as natural as possible. And majority of the time, the bait fish in that area are going to be moving with the current. And so those bass set up on those ambush points at that particular way to obviously ambush what they would consider to be a natural looking prey. Um, so I went to my second place, which ends up being the place that I decided to launch for the Bassmaster Classic. Okay, so um, getting out there, I was able to establish a pattern real quick. Again, just pounding the bank. All I was doing was tracing the bank with the Evo green pumpkin with a green chatter shad attached to it, and was really starting to put some numbers up, more numbers than I had before. Caught a couple 16s, 17s, and then I move into the hyacinth patches. This is where my bread and butter was for the whole thing. Okay. The hyacinth patches there. these mats that kind of like line the backs of creeks were where these big bass were getting into. I mean, it's pretty much the only structure out there other than obviously a lot of the standing timber. And the first Tyson patch that I went to, I got a 16 out of there, looked like a big male. I was like, okay, cool. And not kidding, the next cast, I catch an 8.3 pound behemoth.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, this is why you come to Lake Fork. This is why you go to Lake Fork. Oh my God. Oh my thing. Look at this thing. Oh my God, it's gotta be a 9 pounder, 10 pounder we're gonna wear. Oh, oh, oh my God. Oh, whoa. Look at that fish.
Behemoth. I mean, this thing was the biggest fish I've ever caught in my entire life as far as bass goes out of the kayak, and was just, I lost my mind. I didn't realize that there were like like I would have been able to obtain some of these live scoped fish that Trey McKinney had way back in 2024. Man, it was insane. And so pulled this thing up. Just, I mean, I watched it come up and eat that Evo, and it was just, it was an incredible sight. But then I have my drag locked down, and that fish peeled line out. It was insane. And obviously was able to catch it. Wow, what an incredible fight. Measured out at 23, 25 or 23 and a half inches. Like I said, 8.3 pounds, biggest bass of my life. And so I continue fishing just on a high, absolutely incredible. I catch a few more small ones, and then maybe 20 minutes later on another hyacinth patch, I hit the biggest bass of my life to this day right now. It is a 24-inch, 8.9 pound, just absolute gargantuan.
Yo, this is insane. Look at this fish. Oh my God. We got 8, almost 9 pounds. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let's flip. Oh my God. Look at that. Guys, this is absolutely insane. 24-inch behemoth. Look, look at that. Look at that fish. Tell me Lake Fork doesn't have big fish. Oh my God. Look at that fish. Look at that. 24 inches.
Gargantuan. And this was a pre-spawn female that had just pushed up, was most likely looking for a bed. And I was just blown away when that fish surfaced. I thought I had a saltwater fish on. It was just, it was crazy to think bass get that big. I mean, these are supposedly Florida strain bass at Lake Fork, and boy, are they just getting giant out there. And so, absolutely incredible fish. I will remember that for the rest of my life. The trip in itself was worth it for that particular 24-incher. So, having all that said, I went about, continued fishing, catching big fish. I had 2 days where I had over 100 inches, and I had two different locations I could choose from. Well, this location where I've got two of my 8 pounders from was Little Caney, and so I decided to go back to that place and continue to use that for my 1 day classic tournament. So for those of you who don't know, because the wind got so bad out there that they had to cancel day one because it was so terrible. It was gonna, somebody was gonna get hurt, and obviously you don't need that happening. So we headed out on Thursday morning. I launched at Little Caney. I told myself I'm going straight up Little Caney, fishing the far side, away from boat docks. I really didn't get much off of boat docks, and I stayed on those hyacinth patches. And I'm not kidding you. All I did was trace those hyacinth patches with my Evo, and I kept it in my hand the entire time. And so, probably about getting into around 9:30, I had 94 inches already, quite a bit. I had all 18s and 19s on the board, was obviously looking for my kickers, which I thought 18s and 19s were kickers, not a Lake Fork. Those are average size fish. I had 94 inches. Checking the standings, I'm in second place.
Let's go. Let's go. 1975.
Place. I'm I'm at a high. This is what I was looking for. This is what I wanted to do. This is where I thought that God's plan was for me to be patient, get that opportunity to go out here and fish it, and then most likely win it. And so I know it was a long shot. There's a ton of guys, 144 other anglers out there who you can consider to be probably the best in the country, if not the world, bass anglers. And so, again, had that mindset, man, I got to win this thing, got to win this thing. All my fish were caught casting into the wind, again, throwing that Evo up and just dragging it, ticking right on the side of those hyacinth patches. And sometimes I could stop it, maybe yo yo it, and I would trigger a bite. Other times I would burn it, that would trigger a bite. You couldn't just reel it, you had to do something a little bit different every single time you came through those patches. So, lo and behold, I finished the day with 95, 25 inches. I'm ecstatic. I have no idea, boy. I thought maybe I might be up there. Well, it turns out that the wind wasn't as bad for a lot of other people as I thought it would be. Apparently, there were, I want to say it was like 16 other people who had over 100 inches. And obviously, if you guys have saw recently, Wyatt Hammond of North Carolina walks away with the victory with 111 inches. I've never seen that in any tournament that I've ever been a part of or ever seen. It was insane. Absolutely incredible. Congratulations to that guy. But I'm here to tell you that was one of the craziest experiences I've had, which was literally, getting out there, putting up a big limit, and walking away with a 26th place. So yeah, I still don't feel that great about it. I know there's a ton of people out there who like cheered me on, were sending me a lot of texts and calls and things like that. And it made me feel good that people were really supportive. And then we had the issue with the standings being cut off around 10 a.m. So you didn't technically know where you were. So maybe that kind of was better for me. It kind of kept my hopes up a little bit until obviously the standings came back on. I realized I was getting far behind. If I didn't have 100 inches, I wasn't even going to be close. But what I found out there at Little Caney is, man, the fish were there, but when I was there first, the second day, those fish were just pulling up into the area to spawn. Like they probably got sights on a bed at that moment. When I finally got there, which is about 4 days later, and refished it, those fish were already on beds, or if not off beds, and been caught so darn much. And so I really didn't get a chance to exercise my ability to be able to put up 20s on the board because those 20s were on beds or we're done or we've been caught so darn much that they don't even want to look at anything that looks like food. So, yeah, that was sort of how my day went. Again, the Evo chatterbait, tungsten. It had to be tungsten, green pumpkin with a green chatter shad attached to it. Dude, awesome. But man, I cast, and I'm not kidding you, probably over 2,500 times. I mean, and here's a little advice. If doesn't matter where you're going and what you're using and what type of knowledge you might have on the water, I don't care who you are. But if you make 2,937 casts at the bank using one particular bait, one being maybe a bladed jig from Z Man, you are going to get 5 bites. That's just science. That's science, baby. You're going to get 5 bites. If you throw that many times at the bank, you're going to find your 5 fish. You just got to get it locked in your hand. Okay. And so that was my whole mindset behind this tournament. I didn't have enough history on that water to really focus on, maybe live scoping or things like that. So yeah, that's sort of my experience, at least with the whole fishing of the championship for Bassmaster. But it was interesting. I learned a lot. So again, I walked away with a 26th place after the standings turned on. Obviously, we guys, everybody saw the situation with Bassmaster and Alive, and unfortunately, there were some audio issues. But again, Wyatt Hammond of North Carolina is just an absolute terror. Apparently, on Lake Fork, really found his fish. Now, through the grapevine, what I believe and what I've heard is exactly what was happening out there. There were two situations that were getting these people over 100 inches. It was either A, one, which is what everybody would have thought of, which is live scoping. These individuals were getting to some of these areas. They were fishing generally colder water, which is where you're getting your pre-spawners pulling up, and they're getting in those staging areas. And if you can find those staging areas, you can really lock in on those fish utilizing, active target, panoptics, whatever, and you can, eventually get a hold of some big fish. Unfortunately for me, I fish with a torpedo, and I know wholeheartedly that uh, if you have a what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my God, spot lock. If you have spot lock on your bow mounted motor, which is generally your IX3s or your some sort of Makotas or whatever it may be, if you have that, you can really target those fish utilizing your active targets, live scopes, and things like that. Okay, so and um, that was my problem because I utilize a stern mounted motor. I use a Torpedo 1103, and this I just love having the ability to move quickly. Also, at the same time, the amount of stumps that you deal with on Lake Fork, I couldn't tell you having a bow mounted motor would have been detrimental to me sometimes, and I just didn't even want to deal with that. So, anyways, so that was number one. Was these guys were out there live scoping these fish, utilizing small little minnow hover jigs, whatever you want to call them, and they were eventually making their way up. The other ticket, which I'm, hats off if you want to do this, guys were using glide baits. They were throwing glide baits all day, all day. My arm hurts throwing a 3/8 ounce Evo. I couldn't imagine throwing a glide bait all day. And then if you've ever fished a glide bait, I could tell you right off the bat, it is one of the more patient baits that you're going to have to utilize. What I mean by that is you've got to be patient. This is one of those things where it's all about the retrieve. When you're reeling in the glide bait, a lot of times it's boom, boom, and it's methodical, and it's just sucks, especially if, let's say, you're 2 hours in, you got one bass on the board. I couldn't imagine, man. I mean, yeah, I guess if you want to win it and you're so keyed in on that glide bait, yeah, all about it, man. Go out and get it. And there were guys out there who got 5 bites, and that was it. But it was the 5 right bites. So if you guys are heading out on Lake Fork and you're getting ready to head out there during the pre-spawn slash spawn, okay, I could tell you right off the bat that there are fish all over the place. It really doesn't matter where you fish. There's areas obviously better than others, but it really depends on the water temperature, on what type of fish you are going after. So for me, I would have loved to find a post spawn bite because post spawners in general are going to be a little bit more hungry, a little bit more aggravated, a little bit, wary. Whereas if you hook into them, they're not going to fight you as hard because they're just getting off a bed. Again, they're probably pretty aggressive, at least towards anything that looks like a bluegill, because obviously they're trying to defend a bed. And then three, they're just hungry. They've lost so many calories in that spawning process that it's that the post spawn would be what you want to go for, at least for me, because the thing about kayak fishing, we don't care about weights. I don't care if that's the most starved fish. I don't care if that's a 21-inch, 2.5 pound bass. Okay. I don't care. It still measures the same length, regardless of pre-spawn, spawn, or post-spawn. So if I could find a more active fish who are wanting to eat, obviously those are most likely going to be the post-spawners. The pre-spawners are going to be the ones that are going to be pretty tough to catch, but still have a tendency to want to eat. They're getting up, getting ready to jump on beds. They're looking for calories. They're going to eat anything that's in the area of a potential bed they're looking at. Looks like a bluegill, they're going to attack it out of just pure aggression, because that's just, bluegills are detrimental to a bass bed. So obviously they're going to attack it. The thing that gets the most difficult is fishing for spawning bass that are locked in on a bed. And even a little bit before them locked on a bed is one of the worst times. And that was about the time that I was fishing. So these bass were kind of locked on a bed, and you see them there and you pitch anything in, they're so finicky, they'll just scurry away. They'll scurry underneath the hyacinth mat and you'll never see them for the rest of the day. It's just that's the situation you're going to deal with when you're fishing in and around uh, late February into late March. So that's about the time. And again, water temperature is huge and key. Okay. So the water temperature that I was finding that had these pre spawners were anywhere from 57 to 58 degrees, maybe 59 degrees. The ones that were getting locked on the beds that you could still catch from the bank, but were getting locked on the beds, were right around literally 60 degrees. If you found 60-degree water, they're getting ready to get on the beds. And then if you had anything warmer than that, those bass were locked in and they were just there. Okay. Like it was just like you couldn't do anything about them. You could see a giant 25-inch bass sitting right there looking at you. You'll throw anything and everything at it, and it'll just think that you're the dumbest person in the world. So lo and behold, that was my experience for the Classic. Now, I want to talk a little bit, just a little bit, about the Bassmaster Classic, because it was one of those experiences that, as a bass fisherman, I think everybody needs to get at least a chance to go to. And what I found out was the Bassmaster Expo was a lot like ICAST in Orlando, Florida, every single year. If you've ever been to ICAST, it's just a bunch of companies getting together down there. They're releasing all their new products to for marketing purposes and things like that. And then there's a lot of finagling in between different companies. There's a lot of like relationships behind doors that are starting to kind of mend when you get to the ICAST. Bassmaster was sort of like that, but it was more geared towards the consumers, you and I, fishermen, things like that, getting out there, and they're out there, they're selling products. They're giving away a lot of free stuff. You can win a lot of different things. It was really cool. A lot of activities do. I definitely recommend, if you guys are planning on going to a Bassmaster Classic Expo, go to it. It is amazing to see how much work goes behind it, how big the fishing industry is. If you're a fisherman like me, if you're a tournament angler like me, it's a great opportunity to meet potential sponsors and things like that. So it's definitely was a cool experience for me. Got a chance to drop by the Native Watercraft booth, talk a little bit about the Native Titan, the new XTR Bonafide, as well as go over to the Hobie Eyewear booth. I did a cool little spiel with a couple customers with Hobie Eyewear. We gave some sunglasses away. Dylan, the main marketer for Hobie Eyewear, he had this great idea. He's like, "Hey, why don't you go ahead and sit behind behind the curtain, and I'm going to bring people up and we're going to do a quick video with them. And I'm going to ask them if they can outfish a UFC fighter. And he had a picture of me, punching somebody in the in the octagon. And so whenever he showed them that, they said, "Oh, I don't know." And then I would walk up behind them and like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like, "Oh my goodness, you're the guy." I was like, "Yeah, I'm the guy on a picture." So, anyways, it was a cool experience. Got a chance to kind of meet up with some of the fans and other people out there, and met a few new friends, which is really cool. Got a chance to go to a Bucky's. That was my
Yeah.
first experience at a Bucky's, which I'm absolutely blown away. It is like a
Look at
our
this.
sheets on steroids, and it mated with a Walmart. Uh, it was absolutely out of this world. Incredible food at Bucky's too. Great barbecue. So if you're ever in the Texas area, please go check out a Bucky's. But after that, really cool to see the stage that these anglers were going to get up on. Obviously, I wanted to be there, didn't get a chance. Maybe next year, we'll see how it goes. But with that being said, guys, I think I've talked a lot. If you guys made it this far, man, I appreciate you for listening to me about this experience out in Yanis, Texas, on Lake Fork. If you guys get an opportunity to do it, uh, the time that I would tell you on average would probably be mid February to mid March would be the time that I would say get out there and try to get some of these giants because they're all over the place. They're huge. It's incredible to see what Texas has done for this fishery. So yeah, it was just one of those experiences that I'll remember for the rest of my life. I hope I get an opportunity to go back there. We'll see. But if you guys are like me and you love fishing, you love bass fishing, you love kayak fishing, and you want a crazy cool experience, get out to Yanis, Texas from Pennsylvania. It's a 17-hour drive. It sucks, but guess what? When you get there, you have this energy all about you. It doesn't matter if you've been awake for 30 hours like I was, you just get out on the water and it goes away and it's so incredible. So, guys, you got to get out and check out Lake Fork when you have the opportunity. Definitely a bucket list. I'm so happy I got a chance to represent Pennsylvania, represent Bass Nation here in Pennsylvania. And also, this is a great reminder to a lot of you guys. If you are like me, where maybe you've got a family and you got responsibilities, you got full-time job, you're not like a lot of these other guys who get paid to go fish, who just have maybe their moms and dads pay for them for everything. They're a mom and dad, home squatter, and they're 25 years old, not living on their own. It's tough. If you're not like those guys, it's tough to be able to get out and fish a lot of these areas. So, my suggestion to you, especially if you believe, like me, that you could be one of the best out there and you want to go fish the classic, you want to go fish these big championships, you have an opportunity, at least with Bassmaster, within your state to fish at a Bass Nation affiliate program within your state, and you have an opportunity to go to the classic. Just make sure you save up enough vacation time so you put enough time in on the water. But I'm here to tell you guys, like it's a blessing to have a program like this. And here in Pennsylvania, again, I got to give a huge shout out to Josh Sims, who have taken over, and Aaron Proper as well, who's a big time. Both of these guys kind of grew up in the kayak anglers world, fishing a lot of the local charity events that we have here, but decided to really kind of pull together and get this program really stepping up in the right direction and getting into the to the point where we can send guys to go represent our state at the classic. And so if you guys again are like me and you have responsibilities and you can't get out and go travel all over the place, you could do it right there in your home state. So check them out, guys. If you don't have a program like that, talk to Steve Owens again. He could probably help you in establishing a program in your area so that you guys can start sending people who you can fish local waters, but at the same time have an opportunity to showcase their skills at the biggest event in the world, the Bassmaster Classic. So, all right, I'm done talking. Again, if you stayed on this long, I love you and I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Big shout out to my sponsors. I've got them always listed down below in the description. I also have some discounts, guys. If you are wanting some discount codes on Crosskick shoes or Hobie eyewear, I've got that available down. Just follow the links. You got to follow the links and then use a code. If there's a code attached to that link, use that code at checkout so you can get 15-20% off whatever discount I have down there. So that's it. I'm done talking. Thanks for listening, guys. If you lasted this long and you still haven't hit that like and subscribe button, please do that now. Thank you so much. Let's support each other out here. Let's help each other. Subscribe to everybody's channel. That's the name of the game here on YouTube. But thanks again for watching, guys. I hope you guys get out on the water and get yacked. Thanks for watching Straight Yacked.